Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, July 27th, 2018, the WNW 345. And first up, how the mainstream media is not really covering the news. They're missing huge stories, but here is what the mainstream media thinks is the huge story. And I'm going to point out how stupid this is and how stupid it's too stupid to be stupid. Here we have Cohen. This is his former attorney. Cohen claims Donald Trump knew in advance the 2016 Trump Tower meeting. That's where the Russian source with dirt on Clinton, her name was Natalia Veselnitskaya. Veselnitskaya. I believe that's the way you say it. If I was Russian, I'd say it a little bit, better than that. But anyway, so they start about the 2016 campaign going on. Trump Jr. gets a call, and he gets a call, and they say, "Hey, there's some dirt on Hillary Clinton." Okay, I'll take a look at it from a Russian, and it turns out to be a nothing burger, and also to this Natalia. Ends up being somebody supposedly who knows the Democrats and sent by the Democrats. Not really a true Russian spy agent or aficionado, and she didn't really have any dirt on Hillary Clinton. But anyway, it goes on. This is CNN's big story. This is CNN. And here they say, buried in their story, to be clear, these sources said Cohen does not have evidence such as audio recordings to corroborate his claim, but he's willing to attest to his account. This is a big he said, she said, or in this case, he said, he said. Rudolph Giuliani came out and said, that didn't happen. Also, if you take a look back at what Alan Dershowitz, famed constitutional attorney, said, it's not a crime to talk to the Russians. Trump Jr. didn't do anything wrong. So what if Trump knew about it or he didn't? Giuliani says he didn't. They didn't have any proof to back it up. But so what? What if he did? So what? They talk about this a long time. Trump Jr. met with the Russians and said, no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a crime. According to Alan Dershowitz, who's also a Democrat, by the way. So, I mean, they're just riding this collusion, traitor, Trump's in the pocket of Putin, crazyville, where they have no proof whatsoever, Trump, still to this day after what? How long has it gone on? All told, with all the whole investigation since July of 2016, 2 years. But let me show you what I think. The reason why they're concentrating on stupid stuff is because they don't want to concentrate on the real stuff. So DOJ releases Carter Page FISA documents, and Trump responds. And I use Trump's response because it was appropriate, and it really was an honest tweet. Congratulations, Judicial Watch. Those are the guys that asked for it. And Tom Fenton, they had a FOIA request. They didn't get it all. They got a bunch of redacted pages. Being successful in getting the Carter Page FISA documents, as usual, they're ridiculously heavily redacted, but confirm with little doubt that the Department of Justice and FBI misled the courts. Witch hunt, rigged, a scam. And he's got proof to back that up. Listen, my study of the documents, at least what you could see, and there were, 170 some odd pages that Fenton and Judicial Watch didn't get, but one lie after another. I mean, one lie after another for these 4 warrants they used. They said it was just for Carter Page, but I think they spied on everybody, with this warrant. That's what I think. They tried on this. They spied on the Trump administration. They spied on the Trump campaign. They spied on him. It's a fact, and they lied about this dossier, which was a huge lie gotten from foreign nationals. It was a lie. It was no truth to it, and they told the court they vouched for it. They didn't tell them that Hillary Clinton paid for it. They said through Perkins Coie, they had some, smoke screen. They let it stop. Hillary Clinton, who took over the DNC, paid for it. $12 million plus. They didn't tell the court that either. It was opposition research by the candidate that would eventually go on to lose, Hillary Clinton. One huge lie after another. This is not a story to the mainstream press, though. I mean, this is unparalleled in American history, unparalleled in the whole FISA court thing, which, the left-wing liberals are always worried about abuse of the FISA court, but this, not so much. It's okay, lie to the court, don't tell them about the main document that used to get this warrant to spy. It was opposition research that was full of lies, and actually was from the Russians. John Brennan had a hand in that, so did Clapper. Unbelievable. But they don't want to cover that. They want to cover the tapes that Cohen has, which are nothing. Or Donald Trump slept with a playmate and wanted to pay her off. I don't know if that's true or not, but was it consensual? She said yes. Yeah. Oh. Okay. We did have Bill Clinton in office. Remember that? Which was far worse than anything Trump did consensually, if that's true. Then here's another one. This is a huge story. This isn't a small thing. These are big things. I worked at ABC as an investigative correspondent. All I did was pitch stories, come up with story ideas. And CNN, same thing. All I did was pitch story ideas. I didn't go out and do here tip, see tip, run. There's a drought. There's a plane crash. There's, some guy that got killed. I didn't do any of that stuff. I did high-level investigative stuff. All I did was pitch stories and write up, reports for the story. I had to write up a report. I had to pitch the story. I had to have the characters, the outcome. I had to have everything laid out, what I think it's going to be, before we went out and did the story. Had to be approved. But let's get on to this. James Clapper was behind. Obama was behind the whole thing. I found the tape where he's on with Anderson Cooper. It was on a Saturday, and Anderson Cooper sitting there like, boom. And here's James Clapper on the phone saying that Obama was behind the whole Trump thing. Let me read. This is the text that I got off. That I got. This is from Zero Hedge, but I also listened to it all top to bottom. This is stunning that he said this, and this is what Clapper, who is the DNI, is the Director of National Intelligence. He oversees all the intelligence agencies. The Director of National Intelligence, DNI, Clapper, James Clapper. He's throwing his former boss under. He's throwing him under the bulldozer, not under the bus. He's throwing him under one of those big trucks with tires that are, 15 feet tall to run over him. But here's what he said on the air. If it weren't for President Obama, we might have done the intelligence. We might not have done the intelligence community assessment that we did that set up the whole sequence of events, which are still unfolding today, including Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. Are you getting that? This is the investigation started with the phony FISA applications to the FISA court, with the with the dossier that Hillary Clinton paid for, also the P dossier, because allegedly Donald Trump was peeing on the beds in Moscow hotel rooms. Totally false. This is still unfolding, including the Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. President Obama is responsible for that. It was he who tasked us to do that intelligence community assessment in the first place. It's all President Obama's fault. And remember the emails that Lisa Page and Strzok were giving, talking about Operation Crossfire Hurricane? The Stones title to their song. Operation Crossfire Hurricane, where the White House is running an unknown investigation. Crossfire Hurricane. White House is running this, or the texts between lover, two FBI attorney and agent Strzok and Page, who are lovers. It's really they're not covering this. This is not a story even to Fox News. James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence under the Obama administration, basically comes out and says it was Obama. If it weren't for President Obama, we might not have done the intelligence community assessment that we did that set up the whole sequence of events, which are still unfolding today, including Special Counsel Mueller's investigation. President Obama is responsible for that, says James Clapper, and that's not a story to the mainstream press. And this is how you know they're fake news. This is how you know they're co-conspirators. I talked to my friend Dave Janda. He says, oh, no, they're co-conspirators. We should start calling them co-conspirators. I said, Dave, you're right. I worked in the press. They're not functioning as the press. I mean, what are the Harvard and every other poll? More, with the mainstream, ABC, NBC, CBS, Washington Post, New York Times, they're in the upper 90% of all the stories they do are negative. That's propaganda, folks. That's not fair. That's not objective. That's propaganda. And they're really co-conspirators. They are, what did Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, say when he was running in the campaigns? And I hate to agree with him because I think he's done some low-down, dirty dog stuff to President Trump, including stopping one of his judicial nominations. But he did say that the mainstream media is the biggest super PAC that Democrats have. He's right about that. I mean, the mainstream media is all on board for New World Order, all on board for one world government, Luciferian. Yep, that's absolutely right. But James Clapper, former DNI, he handled all of the intelligence services. The director of national intelligence has come out and said it's Obama's fault. And he started the Mueller investigation. And there's plenty of stuff that will buttress that as well, including, remember this, I keep bringing this up, Edward Klein, his book, I had him as a guest, All Out War, and he came on and said, listen, I have a source in the White House in December 16th of 2016, Obama and Susan Rice and the Obama administration got together and they had a plan, they hatched a plan to unmask all these people. That continues the, we're going to go after Donald Trump, the then candidate president-elect at that point, December of 16, he already won. And listen, folks, let's lay out exactly, I want to define exactly what went on here, okay? They tried a coup. They tried to stop a duly elected president before he was elected. They tried to stop him from getting inaugurated, and now to this day, now they're calling him traitor and all this other spurious, crazyville, unsubstantiated, unbacked up, unfact, crazy, he's in Putin's pocket. It's stupid. To this day, they're still trying to remove him from office, and they're still talking about impeachment. Out loud, Maxine Waters and others are trying to tamp that down because it doesn't poll well. But they tried a coup and failed. Let that sink in, folks. They tried to unseat a duly elected president. That's sedition, treason, corruption, you name it. That's what I think it is. Period. The end. They tried a coup and they failed. They've threatened the president. They've threatened his family. They've made attempts on his life. This is what my sources say. Listen, and people keep saying, oh, they're never going to do anything. It's going to be business as usual. My sources say it's going to be business as usual. No, it's not. It can't be. Why do I say that? Well, let's look no further than this. I wanted to pull this up because I want you to kind of just get in here with me and read this thing here with me. This is Mr. Easy Rider Peter Fonda. And, this is him talking about Barron Trump. We should rip Barron Trump from his mother's arm and put him in a cage with pedophiles. Are you seeing this right here? We should put him, Barron Trump, he's 12, and put him in the cage with pedophiles to see if his mother will stand up against the giant ass. She married to 90 million people on the streets in the same weekend of this country. But what I want you to get in here is, pet, right? Who thinks this way? Take him from his mother's arm and put him in a cage with pedophiles. This is Peter Fonda. He's the, Hollywood royalty. Peter Fonda. Folks, they're threatening to rape his son. That's the message. He came on later. Peter Fonda, I said something I shouldn't have said. No, he sent a message. This is how they think in Hollywood. This is a major part of the major arm of the New World Order, Luciferians, Deep State, Hollywood. Me too. Nobody complained about that in Hollywood, about taking Barron Trump and putting him in a cage with pedophiles so he can be raped. Why am I telling you this? Donald Trump If he doesn't do something about this, his family will be prosecuted, persecuted, imprisoned, bankrupt, murdered, and his son, they're threatening to rape his boy. He ain't going to let that stand, folks. That ain't going to happen. You say, well, he's just like JFK. No, he's not. JFK didn't have the Pentagon behind him. Who was Michael Flynn? Oh, yeah, Defense Intelligence Agency. Sure, they took him out first. They tried to anyway. He's not supposed to, but I happen to think he probably still is working covertly with the president. He did nothing wrong. They made up stuff about him. They still put off his third sentencing hearing. Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn. Defense Intelligence Agency. You think they just hatched this plan over a weekend, over a couple of beers? Yeah, no. Donald Trump knew what he was getting into. He's going to take these guys down. I talked to Dave Janda about this, and he says, listen, my sources say, after the primaries are over, I think it's around, the primary is over, I think by August 7th or so, that, by the middle of the month, expect these indictments. These 40,000 indictments, they have sealed indictments, and maybe a little bit more than that by now, they're real. They're not going to come all at one time. They couldn't. I mean, they're going to be waves of, but they expect some big people to be taken down. And what I'm thinking too, that this here with Trump looking into revoking security clearance for Brennan and other John Brennan, the former CIA director, and other top Obama officials, National Director of Intelligence James Clapper, who basically outed his boss for being the mastermind behind going after Trump with all the phony FISA stuff and all the phony spurious charges about collusion. Also, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, she was in the meeting at the White House in December 16th about outing all these people, and also former CIA Director Michael Hayden just taking his security clearance away, who's talking nothing but trash and calling the president a traitor. This idiot Michael Hayden. But he's going to go after big people. Comey, Strzok, I think Lisa Page has flipped because her testimony was. They were happy with their testimony behind closed doors. I think she was flipped a long time ago. Strzok's in trouble. McCabe's in trouble. Comey's in trouble. I think McCabe and Comey, I think, have lost their security clearance already. I wouldn't be surprised if McCabe, Comey, Strzok, also, let's see, who else? Brennan, Clapper, they could all be indicted in the first round. I think Clapper's also, with him throwing Obama under the bus, I wonder if he's testing out his defense. Like the Nazi guards in Auschwitz. We just followed orders. I was just following orders. These people are going to go down. And in the first wave of people, I wouldn't be surprised if you get some really big people being indicted. And they're going to be indicted. A little good news here. Donald Trump, everybody's all worried about the trade wars. And boom, Donald Trump. European Union leaders pull back from trade war, get some big concessions out of him. Everybody said it couldn't be done. His plan is simple. Let's just remove all the tariffs. Let's just remove all the tariffs. I mean, all the tariffs are mostly one way. It's off tariffs on the United States, while we spend money to protect them from the Russians. Germany, they're cutting deals with Germany and Russia to send Russia a bunch of money while we protect them, and they put in about 0.5% of their GDP. Most of them, they don't put in hardly diddly squat. But they put up all these tariffs, and we can't earn our money to pay for their stuff to protect them in NATO. And so that was a big concession. I think Europe is so weak that the EU, Juncker, Jean-Claude Juncker, wouldn't want to test Donald Trump. They're freaking out. They're scared of him. So they said, okay, fine. Actually, it'd be good for both countries. You know what Donald Trump says? And he says the word reciprocal. We want what you have. If you have tariffs, we want tariffs. If you have no tariffs, we don't want any tariffs either. Reciprocal is what Donald Trump talked about. How can you argue with that? Well, you can argue with it if you want to trash and destroy America and keep bleeding it dry until we're a third world country. But if you want to make America great again, you got to work the trade deals. Also, I think down the road, Donald Trump is saying a big debt reset. He came it off with $20 trillion in debt, folks. He's not a magician. Somebody's going to take a hit on this $20 trillion, and then you add in Dr. Mark Skidmore finding 21 trillion missing from just the DOD, Department of Defense, and HUD, Housing and Urban Development. That's a real number, folks. This is a guy at the Michigan State University with a team of PhD students, candidates, doing the research on this from government reports, and came up with 21 trillion missing dollars. That's a real number, folks. Let's not pretend anymore, okay? That's out there. So I just wanted to tell you that listen, the media is complicit. They're co-conspirators, according to my friend Dave Janda at his show, Operation Freedom, at davejanda.com. His radio show this Sunday has some good people on it, including Bill Holter, by the way. Some other really good people from the IMF, and talking about how gold is going to be a big part of the next world currency type, economic system. The backing gold, probably silver as well as that. But Operation Freedom, Dave Janda, who gives me a lot of insight. I do a lot of talking with him. He has some great sources. I'm going to have him on again soon. One of the other things I wanted to bring up is the $400 million I talked about. Listen, Putin said $400 million, okay? That $400 million was guided by U.S. Intel officers, not agents, Intel officers, meaning they work for the CIA. They're actually employees of the CIA. And this guy, Bill Browder, who paints himself as, I saw all this corruption, I got out of there because the Russians were robbing, the oligarchs were robbing themselves. They stayed away from the $400 million number that Putin brought down to 400,000. Browder donated 400,000 to U.S. Democrats. Now, this is according to TASS. This is 717. So they did a question, but listen what they didn't do. They said, our president asked us to correct the sum for 400,000 from 400 million. Okay, but they did not back down on charges U.S. intelligence officers, that's what he said, guided money, another term he said, out of Russia, or that Browder took 1.5 billion out of the country illegally. And he was helped by U.S. intelligence officers. Now, they didn't get into this at all on Fox. The only person that I even asked him about it was Maria Bartiromo, and he painted himself a good guy that was trying to do business in Russia. Listen, there's a whole other side of the story, and that is that the Russians say this guy was a crook. He was robbing Russia. He was raping Russia. He and certain members of the CIA were raping Russia, and he did give $400,000. He's a foreign national. He can't do that. To the Democrats, the DNC. Actually, the split up was, something like 17,000 and plus 300 and something thousand, about $400,000 to 17,000 to Hillary Clinton and money to the DNC, but it doesn't make any difference. Remember, Hillary Clinton took over the DNC? According to Donna Brazell, the former head of the DNC, said, well, she wrote a check for $20 million, and the terms were pretty onerous. I mean, she took control. So it doesn't make any difference. He can't do that. What he did was illegal. Now, he denies that. And, Maria Bartiromo, who is also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the deepest of the deep state, the Luciferians, that I know this story, and your lawyer, Majinsky, was killed in prison. He wasn't his lawyer, folks. He was his accountant. Why would the Russians get his accountant, the guy who could tell him about the money, Majinsky? They have a Majinsky Act. And and the guy that could tell the Russians about where the money went, the accountant, why would the Russians kill him? His family says he died of a heart attack, and they could have withheld some medication, but why would the Russians have killed the guy that could put some numbers together for him, tell him what really went on? All that to say this, folks. Putin brought this up in this meeting for a reason. He may have gotten the 400 million from 400,000 wrong, or maybe the 400 million really was something that went to the total amount of money that went into something like Uranium One. How about that? There's a reason why I brought it up. And the Russian side of the story says this guy's a crook. He was ripping off Russia. He didn't pay taxes. He had the help of the Intel officers to help him do it. Trump knew about it. You haven't heard the end of that. And I think Browder is a important component to some financing, some spurious stuff. That said, it went from 400 million down to 400,000, but it's still illegal for a foreign national. Browder renounced his U.S. citizens. He's a British citizen. That's what he says. It's illegal for that to happen. Now, Browder says he didn't give a dime. No, zero. The amount's zero. I don't know, but the whole story stinks to high heaven. There's a reason why Vladimir Putin brought him up in the very first press conference, and maybe the only press conference he'll ever have with Donald Trump. Pay attention to that name, Bill Browder. There's more to that story than meets the eye. I wanted to bring up this, and this is kind of goes along with the whole they want to rape Donald Trump's child. You know, the whole, I just want to just get this back. Who thinks this way, incidentally? To put him in a cage with pedophiles. Huh? To get Barron Trump and put him, who thinks that way? Who thinks, I'm going to really punish you. I'm going to grab your child and have your child raped by pedophiles in a cage. Who thinks that way? Maybe a pedophile? Maybe weird Luciferians from Hollywood? Maybe a message he was supposed to give to Donald Trump? As I said, that ain't going to happen, folks. He's going to defend his family. And that's all there's to it. And I don't want to bring this up, and listen, there's a lot of other people that cover this a lot better than I do, and I don't cover it as well as other people, but I have to cover it. I mean, especially when it's a Disney director, James Gunn, he's the guy, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, exposed disturbing history of child rape jokes. Also jokes about him looking at young girls and having an orgasm. You should see some of the tweets. They're absolutely hideous. And then Hollywood rallies around this dude, this James Gunn guy. 260,000 plus folks who signed a petition calling on Disney to reverse the decision on Gunn's termination. They terminated a major director of one of their major properties, Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy. They fired him, as they should have. Just good business. You can't have a guy talking about child rape and orgasming to pubescent girls as your director, your front guy, your guy that could be accepting an award for you. But yet Hollywood rallies around him. What about the Me Too thing? Me Too. What happened to that? That's okay, joking about the raping of children. You didn't see much on that story. That's a huge story. Director of Guardians of the Galaxy. They had to fire him. And it wasn't just old tweets. There's more to the story, but I don't want to get into it. You have to cover that kind of stuff. That just shows you how this is coming out in even the mainstream press, at least some of it. I mean, not CBS won't cover it, and ABC and New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. You know, the fake news, the enemy of the people. These are enemies of the people when they lie by omission. That's a huge story, folks. It involves Disney. Here's another one. Seagram heiress arrested in sex cult investigation. This is Bloomberg. Hats off to you, Bloomberg, for actually doing the news. Claire Bronfman, the daughter of former Seagram chairman Edgar N. Bronfman, was one of four women charged, released on $100 million bond following her arrest in a widening probe of a self-help organization that prosecutors say was a secretive cult that branded its victims and forced them to participate in sex acts. We're talking about women as slaves here. A $100 million bond for one woman, Claire Bronfman, the Seagram heiress. Not covered on Fox, not covered on ABC, NBC, CBS, not covered on the paper of record, the Gray Lady, the New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times. Hello? $100 million bond for the Seagram heiress goes to show you that this is a wider case. What's going on in the world that's not being reported. And a lot of people are totally to dark of how evil things are with what's going on with the very upper crust of society and how much evil there is. You know, these people control basically the mainstream press. They don't control People like me, I've spent my own money and have my own site. They'd like to take me down. They'd probably like to hurt me, but that's another story. But here, just to let you know, just so this isn't just something that just happened. And I remember when this came out. This is fascinating. You can get this and go online and Google Dutch banker Ronald Bernard blows the whistle on the world's satanic elite. This is last July, asked to participate in satanic blood sacrifices of children. Killing children and drinking their blood we're talking about here. Top elite of 8,000 to 8,500 worship Lucifer as their god, regard people as sheep to be used. Like little kids being used. They're just kids. We don't care about it. That's okay. We can do what they want. The child trafficking, this thing about all these kids separated from their parents, more than 80%, I think it's 83%, didn't have parents with them. Their parents either sold them to the coyotes or sent their young children with like a morning after pill in a condom up to the border, their 10-year-old daughter. That's what these people did. 80 some odd percent, no parent. Then you had parents left their children. No, they didn't. The coyotes left their children. The human traffickers left those children because they weren't theirs. They were sold to them, or they kidnapped them, or something. Somebody asked me to talk about the Donald Trump taking over the Fed. And that sounds far-fetched, but it's not really far-fetched. And I got a story from CNBC, and I got the best source I think I could. And the guy that talks about it is Dick Beauvais, Trump poised to take control of the Federal Reserve. Now, he's already put 2 of 7 of their board of directors up there. He's got 2 more that he's already nominated, and there's going to be 2 more. So he could have 6 of 7 on the Fed board that he nominated, that he put in place there. Let me just go on here. This is pretty amazing. This is his bottom line. I thought the summation was good. The president can and will take control of the Fed. It may be recalled when the law was written creating the Federal Reserve. This was back in 1913. The Secretary of Treasury was designated as the head of the Federal Reserve. We are going to return to that era. Like it or not, the Fed is about to be politicized. Now, you've heard Donald Trump talking about, how he doesn't want Jerome Powell to raise rates. He's the new Fed head. And that he thinks it's dumb, and the economy's not doing as well as it should be. And listen, I like Donald Trump. This is not a criticism of Trump. As I've told you many times, and it's worth saying again, we'd be in a depression by now if it wasn't for Donald Trump. If it wasn't for him cutting regulation and repatriating cash and him getting us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a job killer for us, getting us out of the Paris Climate Accord, another total phony fraud, another job killer for us. And also, while I'm at it, got us out of the Iran nuclear deal, which nobody signed. It was a total fraud. Nobody, not the U.S., not Iran, not Germany, not the U.K., not France, not Russia or China, not Iran, as I told you, nobody signed this cornerstone, this gem, this diamond of the Obama administration foreign policy. John Kerry didn't even know what was in it, and he testified in front of Congress. He didn't know about what was in he didn't know about inspecting any military sites or inspections, or the United Nations is doing that. Other people are doing that. The Atomic Energy Commission is doing that. They're doing it. I don't know anything about it. John Kerry. So, but Trump's got debt problems. Is he going to take control of the Fed? Dick Beauvais, who's a big-time banking analyst, says yes, he will. He can and he will. Is he going to redo the Fed? Well, if he gets control of 6 or 7 people, wow, he could audit the Fed, couldn't he? They could vote to audit the Fed. They could audit themselves. They could bring in outside auditors. Oh, that would kill the Fed right there. Boom. Listen, there are already big countries doing swaps for ruble and yuan, Russia and China. 30 or 40 countries already have got their own side deals where they can bypass the dollar. The dollar is in trouble. It's still the world's reserve currency, and the euro's nasty, and the yuan has got problems in China, and the yen, they've got massive amounts of debt. So I'm not saying the dollar's going to go down anytime soon, but it's going to go down. We've got tens of trillions of dollars in debt and unfunded liabilities. So is Trump going to do something about that and take control of the Fed? Could he end the Fed? Could he have a treasury dollar? Could he have a domestic currency and something they can use for trade? Maybe. Are they going to back it by gold? Again, my friend Dave Janda has someone from the IMF on, and they think gold's going to make it back into the monetary system big time. So, yeah. And, what happens when your currency turns into confetti? Well, this is a real story, folks. Venezuela inflation to reach 1,000,000%. This is the IMF forecast. This is widely reported. Everybody went crazy on this. Listen, these people are living they're in hell. When you have an inflation rate like that, where your currency goes to nothing, people are robbing people and beating them in the head and trying to survive. This is socialism, folks. That's what happened down there in Venezuela. They were socialist. Venezuela sits on some of the biggest oil reserves in the world, and they got 1,000,000% inflation. So be careful when you're voting for these social Democrats, which are, they're getting closer to calling themselves what they really are, communist Marxists, maybe Nazis. The Nazis came from the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Okay, socialists. Socialism ends badly every time because, you run out of other people's money and things go haywire. And so, are there going to be big changes? Yes. Is there going to be a reset? Yes. And the reset is a debt reset. That means everything that is associated with debt gets reset, including Federal Reserve notes in your pocket. 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, all say the same thing across the top. Federal Reserve note. $100 bills, Federal Reserve note. The only thing that's not a note are the dimes, quarters, $half, dollars. It says, for a quarter, it says $quarter, not a $quarter note. That's a Treasury instrument. So the Treasury still produces money. People don't realize that. Could the Treasury be producing money again someday? Probably. Is it going to be during our lifetime? No doubt about it. Is it going to be during President Obama's 2 terms? I think he'll get a second term. Yes. Is it going to be, are we going to come out of this faster than the rest of the world? That's what all the trade things are. Why do you think he's trying to get the trade thing set up? Because we're going to need to dig our way out of this when it's all done. And the United States is probably going to come out of it the fastest. I'll tell you who's not going to come out of it. It's Facebook. Zuckerberg. Facebook. Facebook took a $100 billion plus route. It's the biggest loss in stock market history. They were down, 24% on Wednesday. On Thursday, they're down 20%. I mean, spanked, killed. They're getting killed. I have a friend of mine who does internet research, data mining, kind of like Cliff High. Not Cliff High, but kind of like Cliff High. And he told me 4 months ago, ooh, Facebook's going to tank. And it was at all-time highs. I said, really? He goes, oh, yeah, it's going to get hammered. I can't tell you his name. I can't tell you about his company because I wasn't really, okay to release that, but I can tell you that. And he says it's going lower. He says, why is it going lower? I said, why do you think it's going lower? He says, well, let's see. How many subscribers do you have on YouTube? I said, I'm 150 or 60,000. Okay. How many people do you have that are your, followers on Facebook? I said, 11, 12,000. He goes, what's different? I had a woman write me on Facebook, honest to goodness, a woman with a real full first name and last name, and said, I can't believe with the amount of content and the quality of content that you post on Facebook, you only have, at the time, 11,000 and change followers. I wrote her back and said, well, that's the magic of Facebook not letting me grow. Facebook's got problem because it took half of its audience, maybe more than half its audience, said, no growth for you. We're going to thought shape and we're going to produce only promote our ideas, communism, socialism, Marxism. That's Zuckerberg. He's an atheist. And we're not promoting anything else. Well, wow. There you go. You're having losses that add up to more than 20% in a day. And then the following day, followed up by another 20% loss. I mean, it's unbelievable. You're getting hammered. And, SGT report was taken down by YouTube. Sean, poor guy, he was freaking out. They gave him his channel back. I wrote him and said, I think, I hope and I think your channel will be restored to you soon. and they did it the next day. And I don't know what that was. Was that a glitch? Was that a trial balloon to see if they take down a pretty big channel? He's got 345,000 subscribers. Good guy. SGT report. Does good work. And I wonder if that was a trial balloon to see how many people would complain and bitch about it, and many people did. But maybe YouTube is going to, not pick a side. Maybe Google is going to not pick a side. Maybe they're going to let freedom ring. I don't know. I'm glad Sean got his channel back. There's no doubt about the thought shaping by the media, by the ignoring stories that are too stupid to be stupid, with James Clapper blaming everything about this whole Trump thing and the collusion, which he calls a witch hunt, which now he's got plenty of evidence to back that up. It is a witch hunt. It was started under false pretenses with fraud. It's a witch hunt. And so maybe either the mainstream corporate media will mend its ways, or they're going to disappear. I mean, you just had the New York Daily News lay off half of its staff, mostly the editorial staff. I used to live in New York. What people don't realize is Daily News functioned out in Long Island, which is pretty Republican. And they probably got tired of being called stupid and hillbilly and deplorable and redneck and stupid. Did I say stupid? For voting for Donald Trump. And they just didn't buy their crap anymore. And they laid off half their people. Now they're talking about breaking up Facebook and Google, which may be a good idea. But that's not the reason why they laid off half their staff. People just stopped clicking on their website, and people stopped buying their newspapers, and people stopped because, they're calling me stupid, and I don't think they're really doing the news. And you know what? They weren't. That's why they're failing. And I predicted that the layoffs in 2018 are going to be vast. Wait until after this midterm election, because, everybody buys advertising time in radio and TV and newspapers. And there may be some big people getting hit after that. But New York Times, they're going to get hit, I think. Washington Post, another big hit. USA Today, Tiger Beat. Tiger Beat was a publication when I was a kid. It was a teen publication, just for you guys that don't remember Tiger Beat. I don't think it's being printed anymore. But Tiger Beat, USA Today, they're going to get spanked. I mean, they're lying by omission. And they're flat out lying, in my humble opinion. So, at any rate, I just wanted to clear that up and tell you about my thoughts on that. I also wanted to tell you that I'm still having trouble with emails. I cannot send an email back to anyone with a Gmail account with Greg at USA Watchdog or info at USA Watchdog. Please, unless I get this fixed at Gmail, please get rid of Gmail. Go to Proton Mail, go to some other mail, go to AT&T, go anywhere, but don't stay on Gmail. I can't communicate with you. The stuff bounces back. So I'm using an alternate email that I don't really want to use. But just to let you know, I'm having trouble with anybody that has a PayPal account or anybody that sends me something with Gmail. So it becomes a real hurdle for me to get around and try to do a workaround to send something back to you. So please, if I haven't gotten back to you with Gmail, it's because you have a Gmail account. If you do have a Gmail account, I would strongly tell you to please get some other mail account, at least when you communicate with usawatchdog.com. With that said, people are still getting some stuff in spam, although less people these days. And I want to thank you all for your support, your comments. I got really smart people, again, on the site. I'm not just saying they do. I got really smart people that post really clever and interesting and thoughtful analysis on the site and on YouTube. And thank you for your donations. I try to thank everybody, but I've been having trouble with the whole Gmail thing. So if you didn't get anything, I mean to thank you. But at any rate, thank you for your donations. And again, and I mean this, okay? Listen, prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. Don't be fearful. They want you to be fearful. I want you to be informed. When you're informed, you know what's going on. Fear is a thief and a liar. Fear is Satan. Fear robs you of your faith. Fear robs you of your good senses, robs you of your good judgment. Don't be fearful. That's what the Luciferians want. And there are Luciferians, and they believe in the devil. And that's what we're fighting. So don't be fearful. Fear not. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in control.